Hello, my friends. How are you today? I'm still missing you, but I'm praying and hoping that you're having a wonderful summer at your home, that you've gotten some time off, that you've been able to, go to the beach or swim in your pool or play in your backyard, play some cool games with maybe brothers and sisters, friends or cousins. Whatever you're doing, I pray that you are being obedient to God and that you are continuing to love Him. Have you ever had to wait for something? Sometimes it's a short wait. If mom and dad say you can have ice cream after dinner, well then you know as soon as dinner's over, you're going to get the ice cream, right? But sometimes it's a long wait. This is August, right? What if mom and dad said at Christmas time, near the end of December, we're going to be taking a trip? From now till December just seems so incredibly long. And sometimes we get impatient. We get tired of waiting. Well, we're going to talk today in our Bible story about a woman named Hannah. And Hannah had prayed and prayed and prayed. And she was getting a little discouraged in waiting for God to hear her prayer. But Hannah knew something about God. And we're going to take a thought from 1 Samuel 2:2, where Hannah says, "There is no God like our God. He is holy. There is no rock like our God." She depended on God. She knew He was listening, but that she needed to wait for His perfect timing to answer her prayer. Now let me give you some backstory. Hannah was a married woman. Her husband's name was Elkanah, and Elkanah loved her very much. But unfortunately, Hannah had never had any children. And back in the olden days, when the Old Testament and the Bible was written, it was kind of a shame for a married woman not to have any children. And there was another woman in Hannah's life called Peninnah, and Peninnah had children, and Peninnah made fun of Hannah all the time because Hannah didn't have any children. God must not be blessing you. God must not be hearing your prayers. Now, was that true? No, not at all. God was hearing her, and God always has a plan in His perfect timing. So one day Hannah went to what we would call church, the tabernacle where they met. And the high priest named Eli was there watching the tabernacle as he should. And Hannah was so distraught and so discouraged. She knelt down and she poured out her heart with tears before the Lord. But as she prayed, her lips were moving, but there was no sound coming out. Now Eli made a snap judgment on Hannah. He accused her of being drunken early in the morning. That wasn't true at all. Hannah was not abusing alcohol. She was in mourning. She was pouring her request out to God to grant her a son. And these are the words that Hannah said. Hannah said, "Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to you, the Lord, for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head." Now remember when we talked about Samson and we talked about the Nazirite vow that they couldn't shave their head or cut their hair and they were not to drink any strong drink? That was the vow that Hannah was making for her son, if God would be so kind as to give her one. Well, after Eli made his false accusation and Hannah said, "No, I'm just praying before the Lord," Eli felt bad. So Eli said, "I will pray for you, and may God grant your prayer." Now, Hannah and Elkanah didn't live too near to the tabernacle, so they had to make the trip back home. But guess what? Shortly after they got home, Hannah found she was expecting a baby. Her heart greatly rejoiced, and there's a beautiful prayer of rejoicing in 1 Samuel 1 or 2, where she just really magnifies the Lord's name and gives him all the glory for letting her conceive this baby. She has the baby, and she keeps him at home long enough to nurse the baby. But when that little boy, whom she named Samuel, meaning gift of God, which indeed he was, when he was done nursing, she took him to the tabernacle and gave him to Eli, reminding Eli that she had been the woman who had been pouring her heart out to God a couple of years before this. Now, that was a hard thing that Hannah did, but Samuel grew up to be a great man of God. He was a prophet and a leader of Israel. And the faith of his mother carried down to Samuel even as a man. What's more, Eli, when he received the boy and became responsible for his upbringing there in the tabernacle, he prayed another blessing on Hannah and Elkanah. And do you know they had 5 more children? Isn't that awesome? You see, God was just waiting for his perfect timing. He loved Hannah, and he had a plan for her. Now, you might think, there are so many prayers that go up in the world. How does God hear each individual or understand who's giving the prayer? Well, let's do a little game. You know the people in your family, right? So get your family together, and someone needs to be blindfolded and sit in the middle of the family circle. Now, one person at a time is going to whisper the blindfolded person's name. And the blindfolded person has to guess and see which family member it is who's whispering his or her name. Now you might say, well, that sounds pretty easy, and it may be. Imagine it's even easier for God to tell who is sending up the prayers, who's whispering his name. Because he's God. He knows each of us one from the other. And he waits to answer the prayers of his children. Make sure that you are his child, that you've asked Jesus to forgive you of your sins and live in your life to be your strength and your power to live correctly and obediently in this world. And then pray. Pray about your requests. Pray about your thankfulness. Pray about those you love. Commit your way to Jesus Christ. Well, it's been good to be with you today. Don't forget to do the game about whispering your name. Take care. Bye-bye. Love to each of you.